like to go ahead and call it to order. Okay.
Okay.
I would like to call the October 3rd, 2025 meeting of the Kansas African American Affairs Commission to order. Can we have our roll call?
Commissioner Trent, Dr. Trent Davis,
Here.
Commissioner Angela Johnson,
Present.
and Commissioner Jonathan Westbrook.
Present.
Okay, there we go.
Can we go ahead and do the full roll call and acknowledge those that are excused,
Yes.
those that are not?
We have heard, there has been correspondence early in the week from Commissioner Mark McCormick. So his absence is excused, and also Commissioner Jade Ramsdell has been in contact. She has fallen ill, so her absence is excused. We have been in contact with Commissioner Crystal Davis. She's just caught in an appointment and expects to join, but is going to be late.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification, Stacey. With that being the case, in order for us to have quorum, we have to have a minimum of 4 commissioners present. We have 3, so we do not have quorum. We are able to call the meeting to order, but we are not able to vote on substantive matters. So we will go ahead and go through our agenda, and we just will not be able to vote, which includes the approval of the minutes. We can come back to that should Commissioner Crystal Davis join us. But we'll move forward to any public comments. I do not see any members of the public present, so we will move forward to an update from the chair. My update is the Kansas African American Affairs Commission monthly commissioner activity updates. Our commissioners may recall in our last meeting, we discussed enacting a monthly reporting cadence to be able to highlight our activities in our respective districts throughout the month. The purpose of doing that is to be able to support our executive director in the creation of the annual report that is an expectation of the commission, as well as being able to keep up with what's happening with one another in our respective districts. I want to say thank you to the commissioners that have submitted responses. We have had some responses from some of our commissioners. Stacey, I did send you what came through on that. Just to share with the broader commission, I've been working with Stacey on, as we talked about the responsibilities of the executive director and them being the holder of our official records and minutes and communications, it's most appropriate that that report, and as you submit the report, it goes to Stacey. So I've been working with Stacey on how to get that report as we respond to it into her mailbox, if you will. So it will come out each month with a reminder and encouragement for commissioners to complete it. And even if you haven't been active or didn't have any major activities in that month, it's a box on there for you to check and say that. But we are asking that everyone respond, so that way we know it's not just forgotten about and maybe you've done some things and just slipped your mind to submit the report, or maybe for this particular month, it was an active month. If you can still let Stacey and I know that, so that way we can be able to track and speak to the activities of the commission. For next month, the email will come from Stacey and it will have an updated link. So please keep an eye out for next month, about a week before our November. Is that right? Oh my goodness, November already. Our November meeting, that will come out. And again, even if you haven't been active for the month of October, please just highlight that so we know that everyone is getting the form and able to provide feedback on the form. Also keep in mind, Stacey, I believe you wanted to have the annual report completed January. Is that correct?
As per our bylaws, it should be, I think we stated the last day of the year. So it would technically December 31st.
Okay. So with that being said, we want to be supportive of what the commission has already determined it wants to do and what the responsibility of our executive director is and what she's asked of us, which is to be able to communicate our activities. So if we could please, utilize that form, and prior to the form being completed, if there were other activities, you can include them on the form. You can go back to yesteryear and just add those things to the form. It really will simplify for Stacey as she's developing the report that the bylaws have required it be developed for KAAAC. It really will simplify the process for her. So
you probably should restrict it to this calendar year, because that's what it states is calendar year. So I don't know how far back yesteryear you were indicating, but let's keep it
yesteryear is January 1st, 2025 is what yesteryear means.
Just want to clarify that.
Okay. So with that, if you have any questions or if there's any issues, feel free to reach out to myself or Stacy. But again, this is helpful. This is beneficial. This is advancing the commission and simplifying the process for our executive director. And with that, updates from the executive director.
Yes, so we had our leadership brunches. They're continuing. The last one was in Topeka, and it was a success. There were approximately 85 people were there. It went well. Micah Kubik did the keynote speech. She talked about civic engagement and just the importance of paying attention to what was going on. We are our last one. That's part of the announcements. The last one's coming up here in October, not this coming Saturday, but the next Saturday, October 11th. It will be in Lawrence. I did, as per our last conversation last month, I did complete an application for the Kansas Leadership Center grant. And I contacted them to ask when we would be potentially notified. And they said that they will make evaluations and send out notifications the second week of October. So it's not second week of October yet. So we haven't heard back whether or not we have heard that. The Black entrepreneurs of the Flint Hills did contact.
Real quick, for both of those, for the first one with the next brunch, whose district is that in? Or did you want to, because I want to see who's going to be present and also if you're going to need
Yes.
anything.
It's technically Trent Davis, and Trent and I have been in contact. We also know there's a major conflict that day with the NAACP is having their a convention in Leavenworth. I didn't know that was going to happen when we started planning these brunches in April, and so but with Trent recovering from surgery and relying on other people, it's just a very tight window. And so I know Commissioner Crystal Davis had approached me to say, hey, even though it's not technically in her district, she wished to attend because she wanted to hear Dr. D'Angelo Burns-Wallace. So I know that Dr. Crystal Davis is available to attend. She is interested in attending. I know also Commissioner Johnson, had expressed interest in attending. So I know that the commission will be present. At least perhaps two of you will be present if Commissioner Davis is unable to make the trip.
Okay, and it sounds like Commissioner Davis that you will not be able to be present. And thank you. It sounds like you're going to be pulled in different directions, recovering at home or perhaps in the NAACP event.
Right, that's the annual state meeting for NACP, and that's if I can get there, depending on the gratitude of some people I can get to drive me. But more likely than that, I'll be resigned to anything that can be done by Zoom that day, which might not be much.
Okay, with that, yes, I'm planning to be present. Commissioner Crystal Davis will be present too. So I know normally at each one we have the commissioner whose district it falls in to give a greeting. I don't mind doing that. Commissioner Davis, please, if you're not definitively not going to be there, if you have some words that you want me to say on your behalf, absolutely will be acknowledging that this is your district. But to have some representation from the commission, I think that's important too. So if you can get some words to me, if you would like, I can convey them on your behalf at the event.
Thank you.
And then, Stacy, you mentioned transition to the Kansas Leadership Center effort. If I recall correctly, there was an ask and a task of the commission to create some wording for how we would disperse any awards that we would get or scholarships we would get. If I recall correctly, I think Commissioner Davis, I think you offered to assist with crafting that. Have you had an opportunity to do that, or do we need to schedule some time to get on each other's schedules to get to some crafted language on how we'll disperse the framing for how we'll disperse the the extra awards that we'll get?
I think your last suggestion is the way we should go. I have not done any work on that since then.
Okay.
I indicate that we haven't officially been awarded these yet. So there's room for wisdom to actually wait to see if this work needs to be done. However, I know later on in the agenda when we talk about sponsorships that have been reached out, there is work that we know could be done, crafting language about how we would go about evaluating whether or not we buy a table at the NAACP event or excuse me, in AACP. I know they're trying to change their verbiage. So there's probably still helpful for whoever's going to get together to work on verbiage, to work on verbiage.
Okay, I
Do
think
you
that's
know
fine.
off the top of your head when the leadership program curriculum would start?
I don't. I think I I have that. I confess I have not allowed that to take up a huge amounts of space in my head because we haven't actually been awarded it yet. And so I'm like,
That's
I'm gonna cross that
quite
bridge if I
fair.
have to. So no,
Right.
I don't know.
Okay.
So I think that's wisdom. There's some presumption there. Uh, so let's wait until we hear back, which I believe next week, within the second week of October, is when they're anticipating making those announcements. And then from there, we can determine should we need to move forward with crafting and framing how we'll advance that. Commissioner Davis, I'll reach out to you once we get that update on if we are awarded. Okay. Thank you, Stacey. Please continue.
The Black Entrepreneurs of the Flint Hills reached out to me as in the executive director, to ask for a letter of support. They had an application to preserve Black culture. There's a Preserving Black Churches program that's a national wide thing. And they are working on a project, they being the entrepreneurs of Black Hill, the Black entrepreneurs of the Flint Hills, are working on a project to revitalize Shepherd Chapel in Manhattan into I think it's called the Yuma Cultural Center. So they approached me to provide a letter of support, mainly because I have been working with the Black entrepreneurs of the Flint Hills over the last several years, actually, in the commerce space, along with some other of the business incubators around the state, just to help support entrepreneurship and making sure they are aware of programs offered through the state of Kansas, things of that nature. So because the director of that program is familiar with me and I've been supportive of her in the past years, she asked me to do a letter, which I did. And you know what? I did not think to send it around to you guys because it was just it was almost like a personal ask and a personal response. But I can definitely provide that letter. It's just a letter of support for them applying. They're applying for a grant. So they haven't gotten the grant. It's their application for the grant. Much like we applied for the Kansas Leadership Center, they're applying for a grant.
Stacey, thank you for that. And I'll share with the commission. What I shared with Stacey is that if there's anything that is a support or done officially as Kansas African American Affairs Commission, if you can make sure that we're aware of that and have opportunity to give some perspective on that. Because I don't want any of us to ever be out in the community, out in the field, and learn that way that we have, as a commission, accepted or partnered or validated something that we have no clue about because it had not been presented to us, but the commission officially is acknowledged in it. So what I've asked is that moving forward, anything that's officially Kansas African American Affairs Commission be brought before the commissioners, that way we're aware of what the commission's activities are, and we can give our voice and perspective on that as well. And we know that Stacey is recognized and is a resource in the community, so she will be getting requests like what she shared, and she has her own relationships. But again, if it's anything official commission, that we're a part of that conversation as well. So thank you, Stacey.
Next, so I know at the last month, the commission voted to do the TCAM Trailblazer sponsorship at the level of $1,500, and so I finished all the paperwork to get that done. I don't believe the program has happened yet, but we completed that obligation. And then the budget update after the $1,500 went out, and we are down in the Kansas Health Foundation grant. So now this is something different than the state general fund, but I know a lot of the heartburn has been over what's in the Kansas Health Foundation grant. It's down to a balance of $20,565.21. So that's how much is left. So that completes my update.
Okay. And with the budget too, per previous conversations and previous requests, there was a request that each month, just like we all received the minutes and the letters of solicitation that came through, that there will be the budget as well. There are still some hindrances and hiccups with the state's system with being able to keep a track of that apparently. But there's still the expectation that that's a part of what is reported to us monthly, considering some of the questions and challenges that have come before the commission before. So the commissioners are aware. There will be further conversation between Stacy, myself, and the state to understand the process, understand why it seems to continue to be a challenge to be able to get those monthly reports available to the commission. So hopefully, by next month, we will have that finalized, and that will be a part of the packets that we receive prior to our meetings so that we can keep up with what's happening with the budget. Okay, any questions or any more feedback to our executive director? All right, let's head to old business, voter to voter. Stacey, can you give us an update on where we are with this effort?
The team is up to 24 ambassadors. Hang on. Commissioner Westbrook must have reached his destination. He's logging on again.
Okay.
I thought I admitted him. Hang on. Here we go. 24 ambassadors. And if you were to go out to check on your team, the primary data is there. I will stress that not every registered voter had a primary to vote in. I'm gonna say that again. You may have a list of people on your team, your personal team, and it may not look as if they voted. Do not contact them and wag their finger at them. It's possible that they did not have any primaries to vote in. Like I myself, where I live in Johnson County, there was no primary question for me to vote on. So it'll look like I didn't vote, but there was nothing for me to vote on. So I want to make that clear. We debated showing that on the screen, but knowing that this potentially might be recorded, I didn't feel comfortable about having people's personal information out there to live forever on YouTube. So just when you're looking at the tool under the it's like it'll be the first name, last name. The first column is for the general election, and then the next column is for the primary. That's where there potentially might be a blue check mark. But again, don't freak out if there's not a blue check mark. They may not have a primary. So that's the main update is that the primary election information has been updated. You can go check. And then just the gentle reminder that now you should be contacting your people, letting them know. I do know that I believe it was the 29th of September. I emailed out to all y'all just a general, hey, these are some of the things I've sent to my friends in the past. Like, hey, there's an election coming up. So with just some sample messages that perhaps might be able to be sent out, you can literally copy, paste, email, text them, whatever you need to do. And then a gentle reminder that if there are questions, the Voter Network does have their weekly office hours on Wednesday, and you can always go attend those and get help with the tool from the Voter Network people.
Stacey, thank you for that. And just an additional encouragement for the commissioners. This is, again, directly in line with our civic engagement priority. And even though there are things that we can do, because we're all members of the team, we took time to all sign up, we could also encourage other people to become members of the team too, so we can grow that network. There's a whole science and research behind relational voting, which is what this is. So this is an easy, this can be an easy, it is an easy, low-hanging fruit way of being able to increase voter engagement in the state and encourage others to help in increasing voter engagement in the state by being a part of the voter to voter effort. So thanks again, Stacey, for finding that and tapping into that and connecting us to that.
I did want to add a comment. I want to commemorate Chairman Johnson. I did see that you have a whopping 47 contacts in there, so keep up the good work. And yeah, it's definitely going to pay off for the community.
Thank you. I'm hoping so, and I appreciate Stacy reminding me when I was like, okay, where are the updates? When are they going to update? And why don't I see more of the blue checks? See, Stacy, I remember the blue check marks, and she reminded me that not everybody has that had a primary. So thank you for educating me on how this works. And it is easy, just utilizing resources and things I already do to be able to tie in. Hey, go vote. Hey, by the way. So thanks. Okay, let's transition to, my Google is talking to me. Let's transition to new business. So bylaws update. Um, very much aware that a lot of time was spent on development and updating of the bylaws. what we've realized is that there is at least one item that we do need to update in the bylaws for clarification's sake, and that being our elections. It states that we have to have elections, but the bylaws do not state precisely when. So wanted to raise a request to do an additional update to the bylaws regarding identifying specifically when we should hold elections. My recommendation is the last official meeting of the fiscal year, which would, with our monthly cadence, would be the meeting in June. Beginning of June would be the designated time for us to hold elections for the next year. Again, we just need to put that wording in there because right now there's no wording as to when the election would take place, but a best practice would be to identify that. Since, and then per the way dates to the bylaws have to take place, there are a certain number of days in advance, have to be provided in writing to everyone. So with those stipulations in place, we would be able to do all that is required to make the recommendation to add that language to the bylaws so that we can vote for it at our next meeting in November. But this is also an opportunity if there's anything else that anyone feels is missing from the bylaws or any additional updates to the bylaws, this would be the opportunity to do that. So we wanted to raise that to the group. Again, this is not intended to be a lengthy process. We want to be able to vote on this next month and then move on to other work at hand. But this is a prime time for if there are recommendations, suggestions, thoughts of additional content or directives that should be in the bylaws to be able to do so. So I'm working with Stacy on the proper language for posing what I am recommending as far as a specific date, meeting date for elections. That should be coming out at least 10 days prior to our next meeting per the requirements of when bylaws can be submitted. But again, encouraging other commissioners to, if there's anything else that you feel needs to be included, to produce that language before, we'll say before the 15th of this month, to get to Stacy so she can get that out to us to be prepared for an official vote at our next meeting. Any questions or comments? Okay, we wanted to discuss what may be rumor, or maybe fact, we don't know yet. But there has been some conversation within the state regarding potential redistricting in the state of Kansas. Though there's nothing concrete that we can point to right now stating it definitely is going to happen, we do know that there is conversation and communications about it. And of course, any redistricting can have impact that the Black community in Kansas should be aware of and will want to be aware of. So I just wanted to raise that. We'll try to stay connected and abreast of what is happening. The governor did release a press release some time back speaking to it, but again, it's rumored right now. Not much concrete definitive information on it, but I felt it was important to make sure commissioners were aware in case there are some reasons and opportunities to respond or be in communication within our respective constituencies on what may be happening in that space. Any thoughts or additional feedback on that? Okay, next steps. Again, this is going to be something that will stay on our agenda to talk about because we determined that we have our priority areas. So want to always give opportunity for feedback, suggestions, recommendations, opportunities for us to be active and engaged in our respective priority areas of economic development, voter engagement, turnout. And also, what I realized not on here, we also said we would be continuing on with the encouragement of getting more activity and more applicants to boards and commissions within the state. So wanted to lift that and also give opportunity for any thoughts or feedback to that, which is also inclusive to any. Yes, Stacy.
Just this week, in fact, it was yesterday, I received an email from a member of the public who had attended one of the leadership brunches. And she said, I love what you said about boards and commissions. I'm interested. Do you know anything? And I said what I basically say, which is I'm not in charge of boards and commissions, but I gave her the website where she could look up all the boards and commissions. I gave her the website where if she found something interesting, she could apply to a board and commission. And then I also did a warm handoff to the director of appointments, Melissa King, who had come to our brunches at least one of our branches last summer, encouraging her to get in the system. So I know this is going to go on the internet. I will encourage everyone to get in the system, because even if a person applies for a board specifically, they read all of the applications. And let's say you apply for board A, many boards have stipulations, like this board has a stipulation: how many people from a congressional district, how many politically balanced. Perhaps sometimes they want to make sure that there's rural representation, so there has to be so many people from a town that's less, so sometimes where you're, what size town. So a lot of the boards have stipulations. So even if a person applies for a board, it does not guarantee that they're going to be appointed for a board. But so I would say, if you apply for board A, you may not be appointed to board A, but they might say, hey, but you know what, there's board B over here, and it seems to possibly fit some of your interests. So this person from the community is now, she said that she would fulfill the application. And yes, so there's yet just another person who's decided to try to get into the system.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Are we able to track that, to be able to quantify that? In this year we've been able to encourage 15, 30.
Right. That would be difficult, unless a person directly contacts me. Now, it's difficult to track it specifically. Last summer with the leadership brunches, okay, I gotta organize my thoughts here before I start talking. Okay, this summer with the leadership brunches, our plot was keynote speaker, window comes and talks about voter to voter, and I come and talk about Black Legislative Day. That was the, shampoo, rinse, repeat. Keynote speaker, voter to voter, Black Legislative Day. So and so we paid attention to voter to voter. Last summer, our cadence was keynote speaker, boards and commissions. Do you know what I mean? And so, because every time we had boards and commissions, and Melissa King came and talked about boards and commissions, and like we beat the boards and commissions, Melissa was paying attention to, is there an uptick in boards and commission? Has there been an uptick in boards and commissions? To the point that by the end of, so she sort of looked at that slice of time when we were every month hitting boards and commissions, and she was like, there was an uptick. Like, it was noticeable enough for her to contact me and go, yeah, we got 29 applications, right? Whereas this year we mention it, I mention it, it gets mentioned, but it hasn't been something where we've been focused on. So it's last year's appointments was paying attention to it, because appointments was coming with us to all of these meetings, and they had 15 minutes to sort of drive home boards and commissions. So
Okay.
I don't believe the application asks for, how did you hear about this application? Because so much of it is word of mouth.
Okay. Well, so we won't necessarily be able to quantify it like we were able to do last year, where we had that concrete number of that we know came from our efforts. But we still will continue to push and encourage it. And we have these anecdotal stories, these stories to share of people reaching out and still being engaged. So, okay. And we know that our data is coming from our voter to voter numbers and things
Yes.
like that. We can track quantitatively
Yes.
our impact. Okay. Okay. Thank you. Any other thoughts or feedback with regards to our priority areas? So I know, and I also want to have this as a standing, an opportunity for commissioners to be able to give proposals for ways that we can advance our work across the state in these spaces and areas. I know we do have a commissioner that has a proposal to talk about. I'm a big concern because we don't have quorum. So Commissioner Westbrook, I know you have some thoughts and ideas. I don't know if you wanted to go ahead and share that now without us having quorum and being able to vote on anything, or if you prefer to wait until next month or when we have quorum
Sure,
again.
then, and yeah, and this is just dropping a seed. It doesn't necessarily have to be voted on, but just something to think about, and or open for opinions on how to it can be, is it worth taking on, or what changes and modifications can be made. But I was really interested in the state of Kansas annual reporter. I don't know the frequency by which the report was delivered, but I think it was still a doable ask. And I reached out to Dr. Davis and gave a few recommendations as to how this could be done, so that it's not a heavy lift on us initially, but we also use the resources and just be more of a collaborative um, entity throughout the state. I believe amongst all of us that we have the resources to actually genuinely get something done and have a tangible product at the end of it. So for the state of affairs, the big report, the idea that I had suggested was that KAAC reach out to universities or community colleges or even high schools and identify schools and universities that are offering African American studies and programs and let them know what our intentions are. We're trying to build out a report that shows where we have been, where we are, and future trends for the state of Kansas and African Americans. And just look at it as a collaborative effort. And I believe, and it's just my thought that that KAAC representing the governor's office should have some clout, some pull in theory to gain the interest of some of these institutions to participate. We would then replicate and or look at what the previous report looked like and then create some type of framework so that that could be presented to these entities, these schools, the universities, the college, community colleges, high schools, and say, hey, these are the areas of interest that we're looking at. Are you currently in any studies in these areas, and can we then publish on your behalf um, these studies? And again, we're not doing the heavy lifting. We're just providing a framework by which they can operate in. And it for me, this would give the commission and KAAC an opportunity to be highlighted across the state. And then byproducts of that would be that now we're having students that with their work being published. And I think that if we were to promote this well enough, you could have potentially funders and angel investors and those saying, hey, well, we saw that student there in Wichita. We like to provide them, we love their work. We can provide them with a scholarship. And so now we become a venue by which scholarships are being funded. Again, publications are being made. If I'm not mistaken, I believe that the higher up in education you go, publications, your work being published is a bigger deal. And so this is an opportunity to form relationships in the educational area. We also get a finished product, and that being our annual report, and maybe some students getting some scholarships and recognition. So I think it's all around, again, we not doing the research ourselves or having to shell out several $1,000s, and there may be some cost. Hopefully those can be minimized and or they qualify for a grant under a grant. But I believe again it's an opportunity for us to just engage across the state, engage with students across the state, pull in information, learn, and again it's modeled off of not necessarily having to recreate the wheel, but maybe making a tweak here or there, but giving that format to our educational entities across the state and engaging with them at that level. So that was the idea. Again, I don't know if that's a too big of an ask, if that's a heavy lift, if I'm being idealistic here. I just didn't want to see that opportunity for us to create another state of Kansas or for African Americans. I just didn't want to see that fall to the wayside. So those are my thoughts. Just want to see what everyone thought. Is it doable, Stacy? Do you think it's something that would be all fall in your lap and you drown, or or would it be something that we could kind of dole out amongst each other in our own respective communities, or just thoughts?
If I may, Stacy, before you respond, I, I want to share how it filtered in my brain when I heard and had some opportunity to connect with Commissioner Westbrook on that vision. What I think is different about what he's proposing or may be proposing later is that I almost view this as KAAC putting out an RFP, requesting other entities to contribute information, contribute an article, contribute some background, contribute content for how they view and how they are perceiving and receiving what's happening in the state. And KAAC just offer an opportunity for the development of this opportunity for other entities to speak about what's happening in the state, being able to connect to our higher ed institutions that may already be involved in research or in topics or have classes or centers or departments that are looking at the state of Black Kansans that will be willing to, sure, we'll share this article, we'll share this paper on what we're talking about. Or organizations, I know the Urban League here in Kansas, which is the Kansas Urban League, I was out of town, so I wasn't able to go, but they recently did a State of Kansas event. They can do a summary write-up on what they learned, what they presented, that we could include in this CAAC-sponsored effort that Commissioner Westbrook is framing. So that I see that being different than previous conversations about a State of Kansas report. We are really owning the creation and generation of it. I see this more so as we are supporting the knowledge base that exists already in the state, and we're just willing to collect it and frame it and present it through CAAC. So I wanted to share, and Commissioner Westbrook, if that is in alignment with what you're saying, that's how I received what he's potentially proposing compared to what we discussed and we said we just don't have the capacity for, because we don't have the capacity for what was discussed before. But something like this, I think is a different type of lift that would not be as intensive, whether financially or human capital wise. It's just a matter of framing the opportunity.
We do yearly. Like what is the
You sound, for me, you sound really, really far away. I can't hear you.
what does the Urban League do yearly? Is this a little better? Is this a little louder? I
It's a little, there you go.
It's one of those things where I'm still wondering how we are adding to the conversation. I do have thoughts, and I think this is a discussion that's worth having with everybody, than more than just three. So maybe we just table this one until next month. It's an interesting idea. I think, yeah, it's an interesting idea.
Well, hearing the project, it sounds big. And I'm wondering if there are 3 or 4 things that we could do well. And maybe if I probably want to see it on paper. Some things are just easier to grasp looking at it. I'm just wondering where at some point we have to have some manpower to coordinate and compile, or unless we're going to get institutions to do all the work on their own, which you get lost in their bureaucracy. You just need somebody pulling at the coattails on a regular basis, saying, "Hey, need this information, need this data." But I would like to see it, because we do need to keep abreast of where we are as a population in the state.
Okay.
Yeah, and Chair Johnson, I mean, to your point, you did summarize that much more eloquently than I did. And Dr. Davis, Trent Davis, I don't know, I don't understand the bureaucracies of higher ed. So I'm sure there are a lot of other smaller things. This is just my unicorns and rainbows approach to something that I think that could, in theory, be done. So
Well, going to the moon was an idea like that once, and we did it. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want you to downplay by saying unicorns and rainbows, what could be something that we may be able to do, but it does take more continued thought about it. So I think it was great to plant the seed, so that we could begin to kind of process through the possibilities of it, and then be able to tap into, well, what's the practical realities and logistics of it, like what Commissioner Davis just shared. If we're tapping into higher ed, it is a bureaucracy, but you also have some that are experiencing navigating through higher ed and can navigate that bureaucracy. That's a part of the commission. So let's talk about it some more. I think something else that was really important, and I know you and I have already talked about, that Commissioner Davis raised, is having something written to kind of frame this out. So we have some more time. If in preparation for our next meeting, we could have something written to frame it out a bit more, that'd make for a more productive conversation for our next meeting. Okay, thank you. Any other proposals or initial ideas? And again, this is a section that I want to be, that I would like to be a standing within our meetings to be able to see, what sort of unicorns and rainbows that may just be that difference maker, like walking on the moon, do we have? Okay. So with our 10 minutes left, we have a conversation about the establishment of a CAAC funding criteria. So this came into part, and Stacy made mention of it earlier. We have, and what I've learned is it's not unusual for Stacy to receive funding requests from external organizations requesting support from CAAC, financial support from CAAC. As we know, we were not created or established to be a funder. we don't have funding, discretionary funding, typically to go out to entities. So we are not a funding agency. We do, however, have some resources that if we so chose, we could allocate to support external entities. And we have done that, even as recent as supporting the Kansas African American Affairs Museum in their effort. However, with a continual influx of requests, as well as we are working to really shore up how we function, the business of the commission, how we handle the business of the commission, it's highly recommended that we establish a criteria. First of all, we acknowledge we are not funders, but at the same time, there are some things that we can provide some financial funding to. But that's not our core purpose, and it's an exception. But framing what that exception is and the criteria for when we do determine when we are approached about funding, how do we make the determination of whether or not we release the limited funding that we have to do the work of the commission to extend to other entities that are reflective of doing the work of the commission in other spaces. So with that, what I wanted to propose and recommend to the committee and ask of the commissioners is that we establish a subcommittee that will look at a funding application development. And this is not complicated. I really have a vision of 6 questions, if that many. If someone wants to request solicit funding from us, does it fall in line with what our priority areas are? Organization or the specific effort that they're seeking funding for? Does it align with, we have 3, economic development, civic engagement, or increasing participation on boards or commissions? Does it fall within those 3? Or is it something that has a statewide benefit, such as the Kansas African American Affairs Museum and the absolute benefit it offers to the entire state of maintaining our and displaying our history? I can see the commission rallying behind that, even though it's not specific to our 3 priority areas. And there are other efforts that would fall in that camp. But I think we really need to establish a criteria. You all know I love a good form. I can create the form. But I'm wondering if for the commissioners that are present, if there's anyone who's willing to develop a series of questions that we would ask. My recommendation is that if any organization or entity wants to request funding from us, again, recognizing we are not a funding agency. We don't have that capacity. We don't have those kind of resources. But to be a continual funder, but there may be opportunities that we can do a sponsorship here or there. The development of, like I said, no more than 6, a very simple, basic criteria, rubric that as we get these requests, we check against, does it meet what we have voted and stated we're going to focus in on, or does it meet a statewide benefit? Is the organization an organization that's known and noted? It doesn't have to be a big to do, but it has to be something that there's the awareness that it exists. It's an official organization. Just some basic criteria that we can use that as these requests come in, and as Stacy shared, they come in for, I think frequently, it's fair to say, random.
I would go with random, right? Like I think I would go with
Oh,
random.
you see me, I'm sorry. Look.
I would go with random. The fact that we have 3 that are pending right now, it honestly feels like a lot. Or it could just be that for a year and a half, I would get them and immediately say no because we were working on the bylaws or I was, through the audit and I knew that the budget was getting worked out. And so I automatically told everyone no. just for the sake of fairness and not being able to adequately track money. Everyone who asked me, I said no.
Okay.
Well, yeah, and I think the chair gave a very nice discussion. I'm going to summarize this the way I understood it. Our mission and budget, our budget expenditures should follow our mission. And if we've decided that the next year or 2, we have a narrow focus on 2 or 3 missions or projects, our expenditures should probably follow that way. And there'll always be the unique exception, but our donating should, in some measure, further our own cause as well. And I think the chair may already have this in her mind, and you might not have to committee this one out. You may just have to let us know what you already come up with, and we can be a committee of one at the next meeting, or committee of the whole.
Um, well, thank you for the feedback, Commissioner Davis, and I shared my suggestions about how we focus it in on what those check boxes are, but I never intend to want to be a one-woman shop, and I know 2 minds or 3 minds, or how many of us is it? 7 minds can be greater than the one. So definitely open to continued feedback, and a willingness for someone to take a lead. And we have quorum. Someone to take a lead, well, we will shortly, as she enters the room.
At 2:26.
With 4 minutes left. Hello, Commissioner Davis.
Hello, I apologize for my tardiness. We just navigating with my Aunt Rosie at her doctor's appointment. I thought we was going to be out of time, but we were not. And I'm just here, I guess, for the last 4 minutes. I apologize.
Well, thank you for joining in. And we have started the meeting. We realized that we wouldn't be able to handle some of the business, but we're final closing out on the discussion, and we'll resume for next month for voting on matters. So in conclusion of what I was sharing before Commissioner Crystal Davis joined us, if there's someone who could take the lead in just framing those questions, and I can give some lens of perspective. I shared what stands out for me as far as what the criteria could be. What I will also say is, in looking at the ask, it looks like, oh, that was the wrong one. Give me one quick second for NAACP. That event happens before our next meeting, I just realized. So there, in addition to the sponsorship, there is also, that's an in-person event that they are asking for if you want to have a table or tickets. I would like to at least be able to go, and would encourage and invite any of the other commissioners that are willing to travel. Will be in Wichita on Saturday, October 25th, to be able to go, or and also, I guess, to get an okay, I guess we could vote at this point for the purchase of tickets for us to at least have a presence as KAAC, if not actually sponsoring. I'm open to thoughts and feedback on that, because I suspect, we know NAACP, that's an annual conference, but there will be events and things happening within our respective districts that, again, I'm always going to be from the lens of how can KAAC have representation and being visible as commissioners within our respective districts. So for me, this ties into that, as well as what may happen in your respective districts as well. So Stacey, I'll look to you on, being that this is going to take place before our next meeting. Even if we're not officially sponsoring, can tickets be purchased for those that are willing to attend?
I would imagine so. Yeah, I mean, I just would, if that's the go ahead, the way we've always handled it in the past is I contact them, and on my end, it's always easier to have an invoice, paper trail.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it would be good to be, NACP will have just elected its state officers at the meeting the week before, so it would be a good opportunity to meet the state leadership. And obviously the two organizations have intertwining missions, and that is one of the larger chapters, so it would be nice to attend. I'm assuming KAAC would only pay for the commissioner. If a commissioner's spouse wanted to go, that would be at the commissioner's own personal expense.
I can say in the past I have, but see, first of all, this was like 3 years ago. And this was before there was a question of a strict rubric. So I have paid for a commissioner and a +1. Mainly because and we still have $20,000 left in the Health Foundation Fund that in an ideal world would be spent down before the end of this governor administration. So I personally have no heartburn paying for a +1, but I cannot stress enough, that's no longer my decision.
what I would like to propose is for any event that aligns with the mission of KAAC or with supporting the Black community or Black organizations within our state, if a commissioner would like to go, whether in that district or not in that district, is presented to the group and we give the release for Stacy to purchase the tickets.
I think this is where the rubric comes in. Like if you're asking me my take on it, I'm going to swing back to the notion of having a rubric. Oh no, did everyone freeze?
We hear you and see you
Okay.
fine.
Okay, so this is where the rubric comes in, is where I would suggest that there needs to be something in print. Because at this point, in the continual desire to throw rocks, now it's like, well, we don't have there's not a rubric. I want to see a rubric. And so I personally am going to say, much like earlier when the conversation was, what are we going to do if we get awarded these extra scholarships to the Kansas Leadership Center? I would love something that's in print where it can be very clear to anyone on the outside of this organization how it was decided. And so, and I, as much as possible, don't want to be involved in that. That it needs to be the commission. Even if the commission decides every NAACP we're going to give money to, that's fine by me, but I want the commission to say that. Because then what happens when Topeka approaches us and says, came to this, and Salina NAACP throws a party and wants us to do something. And then, Hayes NAACP throws a party and wants to do something. And, and then the KCK NAACP throws a party and wants to do something. So I don't want to be the person who makes that decision at all.
Well, it's Commissioner Trent Davis. I think, and we have to devise the rubric as far as getting tickets for a commissioner to represent the organization, because there are, I should know the answer to this. We'll say, for sake of argument, 10 NAACP chapters or units in the state. Sponsoring a ticket for a representative to go, and they may even put that representative on the program. Is one thing. Sponsoring them, which is usually a much higher amount, would bankrupt us, and generally, I don't know if we're considered nonprofits, but nonprofits don't sponsor other nonprofits. Well, we certainly aren't making any money off this, I guess, in the true sense of the word, we're a nonprofit. But I would just separate, tickets for attendance from sponsorships, and that would probably be caught up in our rules of engagement.
So yes to the subcommittee to devise rules of engagement that can be posted, because there are several in the NAACP chapters, right? And they may all have something. So while yeah, sure, you live in Wichita and that's fantastic, but Jonathan lives in KCK and they have one, and Mark McCormick lives in Johnson County and they have one, and Trent lives in Salina and they have one. I mean, so it's one of those things that could potentially add up to a lot of money, even if it is buying 2 tickets at every event. If there's 2 tickets and if there's 10 ACP chapters and we're buying 2 tickets at every event and those tickets are running $75 a piece, now, to be clear, we have $20,000 that we need to spend out. So part of me is I actually have no heartburn doing it. I just need something in print in terms of how we're deciding.
I want to be respectful of time. It is 2:34. For the commissioners present, can we have 10 more minutes, if you don't mind? If you need to drop off, it's understood. We have a little bit more to cover, and I want to speak to this too. I lean with Commissioner. I was processing. I lean with Commissioner Trent Davis. We're talking about 2 separate things. I think as commissioners, we should be present and engaged. It's been a part of the challenge from the commission is, where are the commissioners? Who are the commissioners? Where are the commissioners? How are they engaged? Tickets to events or activities. I mean, if going the direction I heard you going, Stacy, even when you're asked to go sit at a table for example, Kansas, well, that might not be the best example. I don't know if you're actually representing KAAC sitting there, but as you're representing KAAC sitting at different organizational tables and events and activities, are we now going to put those into a rubric? I don't think they're the same thing. I think when it comes to ask for sponsorships, yes, we're talking about
anything that involves KAAC doing.
So I disagree.
Oh,
that's what I'm saying. Anything that is regarding sponsorships, yes. when it comes to how we as commissioners engage with our respective districts, it may go beyond the 3 priority areas because we're expanding and highlighting the presence of CAC in different spaces throughout the state. So it might not have anything to do with economic development, but I think it still needs to be vetted and conversed like we're doing now. Is that a worthwhile or aligned endeavor, even if it's not specific to our 3 priority areas? But is there a benefit and a value to get our commissioners engaged and involved and present at events or activities? I see them differently. So because we do have an ask at hand, I would like to, and that will happen before our next meeting, I would like to get the perspective of the commissioners on the appropriateness of having representation, myself being that is my district, and I have an invitation to everybody come down is my preference. We all represent CAC and come down. May not be realistic, but I want you all to have the opportunity to do so. Just like if there's something happening in either Commissioner Davis's district or Westbrook's district, there's opportunity to represent CAC. We're talking about lifting and highlighting commissioners being engaged and involved, being present. Give us opportunity to do so. So it may be something happening in another district similar to the brunches, but maybe, for another organization that there's a willingness and ability for more of us to go and be involved to really start lifting the presence of CAC as commissioners throughout the state. And I don't want us to be limited as opportunities come for the purpose of highlighting and increasing CAC's engagement throughout the state and ensuring that we are recognized and relevant and active throughout the state as opportunities present themselves. So I want to be careful with not pigeonholing our ability to attend and participate, but also be wise. I think there's a wisdom of what Stacey is saying too, where we're just not willy-nilly just throwing stuff around or just going to stuff just to go to stuff and utilizing CAC to do it. No, but if it advances and moves forward and highlights and lifts CAC and CAC's representation in the state, I think we should have the leeway to do it as commissioners. And I view this event that way, and others that may be other NAACP offers that may come, or opportunities that may come, I would view those that way too. But that's my perspective.
Hi, this is Commissioner Davis, and thank you. I'm in my car, so thank you for your patience. If I can just weigh in, I agree with that with Chair Angelin Johnson on her thoughts about that, and I think Executive Director Noel and Chair Johnson, you probably received my email about the question of, is it something that I can attend as the commissioner for the Kansas conference that's upcoming? And you all may have spoke about that, prior to me getting on the call. So I know that it's coming October 19th, I think, and 20th. And so I put that request in because, want to ask and make sure. I don't know if it was just travel that would be allowed,
Interestingly,
the registration.
came through literally at 1:38 today. So while we were on this meeting, my answer came through because I, as y'all should know this, as with anything dealing with the state government, the answer is not going to be simple. Okay, because I ran it up. I ran it above my head, and they said, "Well, what does your statute say?" And of course, if I read the statute in that makes reference to another statute. So I went and read the secondary statute, which of course makes reference to a third statute. And so I sent it to my above supervisor with quotes and highlighted of the 3 statutes. Our statute talks about reading members of the advisory commission attending meetings of such commission can, so that makes it sound like it's just meetings of the commission, but it references the secondary statute 75-322-3, which says if you're performing statutory duties as a member, but then except as otherwise provided, which in the statutes of the state, maybe mileage may be allowed to any public official, so I was like, are they public officials? They're not paid. Like, what does this mean? So the answer that no one's gonna like is I don't know yet. Because one statute references another statute, and so now we have to sort of unpiece that. I know that it seems as though the simple answer is meetings of the commission that I can if we are doing something that you need to travel for, that's an easy no-brainer. You can submit for reimbursement. For example, our in-person meeting that we held in Topeka, that I said, we're meeting in Topeka, please come to Topeka. You can do that. It gets more complicated if it's not a CAAC event in terms of literally, can you get it? This is the email that came through at 1:30. Like, I read this, it says provided by law only meetings of the commission. So I think the simplest interpretation is that it's not allowed. Can you get a temperature? How much of an issue is this? Like, is there a chance that you like maybe you can argue that it authorizes commissions, but we don't know? And so, like, I know you're gonna hate it, but we're gonna have to like think it through. I don't know.
So the answer is no, right? Is that what you're saying?
Right.
Executive
I
session or
mean,
no? No,
the
I can
simplest
go, but not
answer.
representing CAC.
Yeah, the simple. Well, you can go and represent CAC, but you cannot use CAC money to do so.
I see. Okay. Thank you.
Right.
I got it.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
If CAC tells you to go do something, like come to Topeka, CAC is saying you need to come to Topeka to be at this event. You can, they have no, seemingly I can use CAC for coming. Because remember when CAC was first started, it was an in-person thing. So this notion of a Zoom meeting, didn't exist. And so every CAC meeting was in person in Topeka. And so the statute is written in mind of reimbursing for people who are traveling to Topeka for a CAC meeting. So when you read the statute, it's like meetings of CAC. Meetings of the commission is what's covered with reimbursement. That's why I knew 100% when I was asking you guys to come to Topeka for a meeting of CAC, that was going to be an easy ask. It becomes more complicated when it's this notion of it's not a meeting of CAC. So yeah.
Stacey, can we let Commissioner Davis, because again, I really want to be respectful of time in this. Can we let Commissioner Davis speak?
Yeah, it's Commissioner Trent Davis. I would think the one exception would be if a person is going to speak at an event representing CAC. I mean, they are materially extending our mission. I would think that would be harder, which is different from just going to sit at a dinner, with a sign in front of your name that says, represent CAC. But if a person is materially a part of a program, and that may only be, 3 minutes of fame up on the podium, but you are truly directly working on our behalf at that point. And I would think that would be an acceptable expense. Of course, I don't sign the check.
Thank you, both Commissioner Davises. Stacey, I think this warrants further clarification, but I think you're in the process of having that. So my usual request, can you add me to those emails so I can be a part of that conversation? I like what Commissioner Trent Davis just shared, where if you are a participant, I also am always going to be mindful of what I felt our task and charge is how to get the commissioners more engaged and involved and present throughout the state. So if based on this ambiguity right now, I'm willing to take back my request unless it's not an issue anymore of having a table. I would be a table sitter. I would not be on program. We are not a part of this. If that's not deemed as something that's appropriate right now, or is still determined whether or not it's appropriate, I'll take back my request for it to be a CAC sponsored ticket. But I want us to have this conversation. I think this is a pivotal way for us to get more involved and engaged within our respective districts and more fully represent CAC and highlight CAC in the process and for that purpose. But I, again, want to be mindful of time. We've already gone past the 10 minutes that I've asked extra. We're now in the 15, and we still have a couple more items.
And then the next thing I want to clarify, because the question that Commissioner Davis was asking was for mileage reimbursement, which is a different question than purchasing a ticket for the event, right? If it's an issue of, I would like 2 tickets to go to the NAACP event, that's a whole different question than will the state reimburse mileage?
And I go back to a combination of what they both were saying. What Commissioner Crystal Davis is requesting is to represent at a statewide event for a national organization to officially represent CAC. Yes, we need to be there. And if we have a commissioner willing to be there and be a part, that's what we should do. And she should be reimbursed for it because she's officially recognizing CAC and is in complete alignment with the purpose of depending, people have different opinion. I think that aligns and that continues to highlight and again gets commissioners involved and engaged in a statewide effort, completely appropriate where her costs should be covered, but she's also expected to bring information back to help further our mission and our ability to connect with the NAACP on a statewide level will be the expectation. So going back to the question with the State Department on the appropriateness and what that looks like in our, how much of an issue it is, I think was what I heard the question being raised to you. It's an issue. If we want to highlight and advance KAAC in a positive way in the state, we need to be able to represent the state. And there needs to be understanding and stipulations about what that means and what that looks like. So we're not having this conversation every time there's an opportunity to do so, and we're unclear about what our options are. And then we result in missed opportunities where there, again, is questions of what is the relevancy of KAAC, what is the relevancy of the commissioners, what is the engagement or lack thereof, when we are looking at ways to get involved and engage and are getting stop signs. So what I'm asking is, Stacey, can I be a part of those conversations so we can get clarity?
I already got sent to you.
Okay, thank you. Anything else on this? And again, thank you all for the extended time. I'm really trying to get us to conclusion, but thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Crystal Davis, who has expressed a willingness to sit on the committee for recreating the rubric, which would also tie into a conversation before you came on of a rubric for our sponsorships and what that looks like. So thank you. Anything else specific to the funding criteria and sponsorships? Okay, district town halls. I'm going to make mention of this. We can go into more detail later. Again, in the same spirit of increasing commissioner engagement throughout the state, Stacey and I had a conversation about, well, what can that look like? And what is being proposed is this spring, each district would host a town hall. And Stacey says, I thought about it some more. We can even, no, I'll say it and then I might take it back. Maybe even in lieu of our monthly meetings, we focus this spring on our meetings, our community meetings in our respective districts to get engagement, get feedback. It's the purpose of these town halls or these events within our respective districts would be to highlight and share what we have done over this current year, how we have established priorities, because that's not publicly known unless people are tuning into the meetings, that we now have these established priorities that are shaping and framing how we show up and what is the type of work that we do. We can highlight that we now have these priorities. We've been working on these priorities. We've got our, the progress that the commission has made. Also, our priorities are for this current sitting year. In July 1st, we hit another year with potentially new leadership. There may be a new chair, there may be new commissioners. I think some of us are at the point of possibly ready to cycle off. So there may be different priorities. We can utilize the spring to do similar to what we did as a commission, where we had that exercise of, well, what is our purpose? What's our mission? What do we want to focus in on? We could have those same sorts of conversations within our respective districts to help inform and frame, well, for 2026, 2027, what is the commission going to focus in on? And we can utilize the spring to have those conversations within our districts to be able to inform when the next set of leadership comes on, this is what the commission will focus in on. That was the thought. Again, spring 2026, that means March, April, May, is that right? April, May, June, that'd be the last quarter, or spring. Spring starts in March, April. Spring 2026, for our elections, we take on that approach. So we would have 4 district, we're calling them town halls. Again, or maybe we'll reframe the naming of it, but it would be an opportunity to get into our respective districts. And I would encourage other commissioners, go to other districts too, show up as a united front to support the work of the commission, highlight the work of the commission and respective commissioners to get feedback on how to continue to be engaging and effective and focused on topics that matter within the state. That's what that was to propose and to lift. Any initial feedback? And there's nothing to necessarily vote on. I can approach this as another seed planted, but we will need to decide if we want to go this direction because we need to plan for it.
It's Commissioner Trent Davis. The executive director was 2 years ago. Stacey, you came to Salina, and we had a town. It was in conjunction with an NAACP monthly meeting, but it was, I hope it was useful for her, she thought it was useful to spend the time to come. Because people have heard of the organization, but don't know what it is. And again, it's other people's perception of what we are, that gets people to come out, because we are thought of someone who has the governor's ear, and we're conduit to pass information up or advance issues.
By doing an effort like this, we will have content and actual word off the street of
Correct.
what are the topics, what is the feedback, what is happening in the state that will better position us to, as we think about the conversations with regards to connecting directly to the governor, the question was about what? What are we going to talk about? Well, this is us gearing up as a commission also to be able to speak factually and knowledgeably about what is happening in the state, what is the feedback in the state. We could design it for that purpose. As we engage, we're engaging to pull content to be able to then have a reason to converse and connect with the governor, because we now have the voices of the constituents behind us and with us as we're shaping and framing what is going to be the focus from 2026 to 2027. And we can also begin to shape and frame how do we more deeply engage with the governor, now having done the due diligence to really be able to speak on behalf of the state. So that was a thought and idea. Wow, you all gave a whole almost 30 more minutes. So appreciate. I promise that it's not going to be standard. We want to stick with the 60 minutes we have, but thank you for the graciousness of some additional time. This will stay on the agenda for next month, but please think and process through that, because again, if we are going to do that, we need to shape and frame it so that it is productive efforts for us. And I would approach it as similar to the brunches, where we can work with Stacey on identifying a location. There may be Commissioner Trent Davis said something that sticks with me. In one of our previous meetings, we may be able to connect to other spaces that we're already engaged in, like our local NAACP, maybe partner with them on having an event in the Salina area, because there's already a connection with Commissioner Trent Davis. And we can begin making those kind of plans to partner with them. Again, it's furthering what is the call, the mission of the commission to be connected to and throughout the state. There may be Commissioner Westbrook. I know he has some connections with some economic development organizations in his area. Maybe we partner with them and they co-host and we do it that way. But the purpose is to get out and to get feedback back to inform the work that the commission does, and in turn give us the content to be able to forge a connection directly to the governor with knowledge of what we learn from our respective efforts. That's my thought. Again, you all know I can keep talking, but I'm not going to do that to you. So please think about that, process through that, think about how it could show up in your respective district, so that when we meet next month, and it already sounds like we're going to have a pretty hearty meeting next month, but if we can do some due diligence beforehand, it's more of a decision-making conversation versus a fleshing out conversation when we come together next month. Any other thoughts? Okay, let's transition to our announcements. Stacey?
Yeah, they're all the same one. The policies for travel are already there. You can definitely put your personal stories up on the Kansas 250 website, and the last brunch is October 11th in Lawrence.
Okay, and I am planning to be there too. I think, it looks like Commissioner Davis both Davises, as well. Commissioner Trent Davis will not be present. Please let me know. I will share on your behalf, acknowledging that is your district. So, Crystal Davis, if you could let us know if you're going to be there or if you're going to be at NAACP and what that will look like. But thank you all for your service. Stay safe, speedy recovery for those that are recovering. And you all know how to reach me. We'll communicate via email with any updates in the meantime.
Motion for adjournment?
Yes. Is there a motion for adjournment? There is. So moved. There's a second.
Second.
The motion's been made and seconded to adjourn the meeting. It's been passed. Meeting adjourned. Thank you all.
Okay.
Bye.
Have a great week, everyone.
Thank